Hello, Seven Collective family. We're so happy to be here today with you. And I'm happy because I'm not alone. I'm with someone else, and we're going to have an awesome conversation today with Andrea, my friend. And we're going to be talking about navigating relationships and singleness in this season. And so can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Maybe some people know you, maybe some people don't.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Andrea. I've been a member here at Revive Church since 2011.
Okay.
I'm 38 years old. I'm a single mom of one, and my daughter's 15.
Awesome. Well, I'm Jefte Villalta. I'm part of the pastoral staff here at Revive. I'm 37 years old. I have a 8-year-old kid, and I'm actually in I would say my second year, entering my second year here at Revive. So
Nice.
you're beating me by a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So today we want to talk a little bit about how to navigate singleness during this season of COVID, of quarantine, during this stage in life where we're at. And as we were talking before we would meet here, there was a lot of stuff that kind of came out as we were talking that for me, were so encouraging.
Yeah.
Especially in the arena of there's things that sometimes you feel like you go through them alone. And then sometimes that's encouraging when you find out, oh, somebody's going through the same thing that I'm going through.
Yep.
But in our case, as we talked, we did have similar things that we had gone through, but then the way that or the things that we faced were a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so, in my case, the thing that I faced a lot during I would say during the tumultuous years of breakups and starting new, was this battle of loneliness lies, right? Like when you're in a lonely place, loneliness starts talking to you. And it starts telling you things that in the moment seem so real,
Yeah.
but as you become healthier, you start noticing that they were not real. First of all, if I could just start off with this one, just because you're by yourself doesn't mean you're lonely.
Exactly.
Right? I'm single, but I'm not lonely. But when you're not in a healthy place, then loneliness seems like the definition of being single. And so, in my case, the way loneliness would attack me would be it would tell me lies. It would tell me lies like, man, by the time you start dating, by the time you get married, your side of the bed is gonna smell like Vicks, and her side is gonna smell like perfume. And I'll be like, oh no, I don't want that. I don't want Vicks on my side. And so it would push me to try to find somebody really quick, or you're weird because you're at this age and you don't have someone. Something's wrong with you. And so those lies, or I think one of the most subtle ones and most dangerous ones was, Jefte, your son needs a mom. And so, you know what? I'm going to sacrifice. I'm going to get whoever I can just so that my son could have someone.
Yeah.
Now, in your case, it wasn't loneliness lying to you. It was something else.
Yeah. So for me, I would say it was fear. It was fear of being hurt, making yourself vulnerable and being, opening yourself up to be hurt again like you've been in the past. So for me, and in those moments, I didn't recognize it as fear. I felt like, oh, I'm just protecting my heart. I'm protecting myself and my daughter. So, I'm not going to give this person a chance. I'm not ready to date. But as I got older and I started really, processing things and trying to heal from all of that, I recognized that it was actually fear that was holding me back.
Yeah, and obviously, as we're talking about loneliness, lies, and fear, these are things that were placed there because of relationships that didn't work out. Relationships, in our case, that we thought were probably going to last the rest of our lives, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, no, this is going to work. And I don't know if you're the same way I am, but I'm a hopeless romantic. I envision stuff, and I'm the guy that I'm all cheesy about stuff, and I love that. And so when my marriage went sideways, for me it was like, no, this was not supposed to happen. And so that's the day that everything went down. From that day forward, it was just like loneliness was, whether it was you got to go back, you got to figure out a way to get her back when I knew it was not healthy no more, or whether it is you got to get over her. You have to take her out of your life by putting someone else in. And so it didn't mean that I actually acted on it, but a lot of those thoughts were continuously in my mind, and they were making my life a lot difficult. And although people that love me were around me and they wanted to see me with someone, they didn't know that every time that they said, man, who you with? That it wouldn't help in the battle that I was already having in my mind.
Yeah.
And so when you think, again, when we think about fear, right? The bad thing about it is that although sometimes in certain seasons it could protect you, fear could protect you, there's a time where fear could actually damage you a lot.
Yeah.
So my son, Joshua, he has no fear. So when he sees a dog and the dog starts barking,
He just goes right up to it.
yes, for him, I asked him, "Hey, are you afraid?" He goes, "No, Dad." When the dog goes roof roof, he's saying, "Come, come."
Aw.
I'm like, "No." And so I want him to develop some sort of fear towards
Yeah.
like a dangerous animal.
Like a rational sense of fear.
Yes, right, and but not one that like takes him away from all animals. And so with relationships, I wonder that if at some point being fearful did protect you, when did you start noticing that fear was actually damaging your potential opportunities for the future?
So, just a little bit of backstory. So my daughter, she's 15 now. Me and her dad were together for a total of 6 years. We met when we were really young. We dated from age of 18 to about 24. And I had my daughter when I was 22 in my last semester of college. So our relationship didn't last, much longer past our daughter being born. She was maybe almost 1 when we split up. And so for me, as soon as we split up, I was like, okay, wow, okay, I'm a single mom. I got to do what I have to do as a mom, as a parent. And so dating wasn't even on my radar. And once I did start to, get in, into the feeling of like, maybe I should date someone, I want a husband eventually. I like for my daughter to have a loving stepfather. I noticed that I started going into these, I wouldn't even call them relationships because I wouldn't even let it get that far. Like I would go on a date with a guy and immediately I'd be like, you know what? I don't think this is going to work long term. So I'm just going to treat this casual. We have a lot of things in common. We can go to movies and dinner and things like that, and we can spend time together. But I'm not going to allow myself to get emotionally attached. And what that actually was the fear in the back of my mind of being hurt again. So I would say it definitely took some years for me to recognize it. And I think once I started noticing that there were some really good potential partners for me that I had let slip through the cracks or either pushed away, that's when I really started taking it seriously.
Yeah, and that's crazy because fear doesn't only attack you in relationships. Like a lot of people miss on great opportunities with careers because they feel like, they're gonna fire me or I'm not prepared for it and whatever. And again, sometimes and we're not saying like let go of fear and just jump into stuff.
Yeah.
But there is a healthy side and an unhealthy side. And I think that even and again with me too, like as I struggle with this idea of like kind of moving forward and like I don't want to jump into relationships, but at the same time I do want to give myself the opportunity. If I'm in an unhealthy place, I may go from relationship to relationship to relationship.
Yep.
Because I just feel like I need to find something right now.
Yeah, you're trying to fill that hole and fill that gap. And you end up filling it with the wrong things and the wrong people.
Yes. And it creates more tension for future relationships, especially if you don't have a way or an outlet to take those things out of your life or your thought process, And especially, I don't know if this happened to you, but when you go through breakups, depending on the reason, but when you go through breakups, usually you tend to attach to people who have gone through similar things. And if they're not healthy, for example, you go through divorce, and so you connect with your divorced friends.
Yes.
And so she comes and says, man, you don't need a man. You could do it on your own. And so, sometimes it's encouraging, but a lot of times it's just they're speaking out of their own pain, right?
That's true. Very true.
Or like as with guys, it could be of like, man, bro, just date around and figure out, and then have fun. But it could be that they're trying to look out for you in a sense, but because they're not in a healthy place, what it's doing is it's possibly creating a pattern that's going to damage you more than anything.
Yeah, that's very true.
And so, like in your particular case, what role has friends played in the unhealthy or healthy part of your relationship life?
I think my friends play a huge role, and I think that's also something that I had to learn over the years, and as I mature, learn which friends are giving good advice and advice from a good place versus those who, like you said, are maybe speaking from their own personal experiences and kind of projecting that onto you. So yeah, I have friends who are married, I have friends who are single, I have friends who are single parents. and it definitely did take me some time to really kind of get through the weeds. And I think with age and with time comes that discernment of, knowing if this person's, if this friend's desires for me are true, and is it what they want for me, or is it what God wants for me?
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people have this idea and this vision for their single friends of, oh, I want you to get married and get a husband and yada, yada, yada. And they try and, hook you up with people and set you up on dates. But is it, in my mind, I think, okay, is my friend listening to God and what God wants in my life? Or is it just their own projections onto me? So.
Yes. And you know, that's so true, because, and it doesn't mean your friend is a bad person or they have bad intentions. It just means that they're not listening to the one who's creating your future.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so, and one thing that you said right now that I love, and when we were talking, you mentioned, and it kind of reinforced a little bit of like what I've experienced in my own life, which is you have different friends for different seasons in your life. You try your best not to have one type of friend.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because when you move into relationships, or when you move into future love relationships, a lot of the things that you will face in those love relationships, if you have not developed those things in your personal relationships, I think you're gonna have a really hard time dealing with that type of relationship.
Yep.
And so in my case, I have friends where I have discussions and we have conversations that challenge me, and we have to problem solve. And so that helps me a lot, because again, when you meet someone, automatically you start looking at things you have in common.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, you find out, oh, smack, like this and that were so different. And you could choose either to walk away because, like you said, the fear tells you, oh no, this mess
Red
up.
flags.
Or you'll do a thing where, look, Jefte, like, yeah, she has this that you guys are not compatible with, but, like, is this chance or no other? And you jump into it. And so, and I think that happens when you don't have a group of friends behind you who you could process things with, who you could talk things with. And so one of the things that I've noticed as I grew older, as I'm getting from the damage that my breakup caused up to now, is how, as I matured, I started noticing the things that, not only things that I liked and I wanted in someone, but the things that I actually could offer to as well.
Yes.
And so we want to go into this idea of, okay, now that I have gotten to a healthy place, and now that I've recognized the things that usually throw me into making mistakes, now I know what I want. What the way the world views it is as, oh, this person is picky, that's why they're lonely.
Yeah.
Or they're picky, that's why they're by themselves.
You hear that so often, so many times.
So when somebody says that, what's the feeling behind their words for you?
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't think any single person likes being told that they're picky, because it makes you feel like you're doing something wrong, or that you don't know what's best for yourself. So when I hear people say that I'm picky, I hear from them like, oh, you're just, you're looking at all these superficial things, like, maybe you got to cross some things off your list. Nobody's perfect, in which I agree. There are no perfect people. Perfection does not exist. But for me, when I think of being picky, I think of it as I'm being honest with myself, and I'm being intentional about the type of person that I would like to settle down with, and the type of qualities that I think are important for me and my family. Yeah. So I feel like there's two different perspectives of, of what pickiness means.
No, 100%. And so when I was younger, I always wanted a certain type of car. And then that certain type of car that I wanted when I was younger actually only had, it was like a 2-seater. It was me, and in my mind, it was me and my girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
I didn't prepare no seats for her mom or her sisters or her brothers. It was like, no, it's just
it's just going to be the two of us.
It's us, just two, yeah. As I grew older and it started changing, and obviously you never want to get to that minivan stage, but there's a point where that's the best car that you actually could get that works for where you're trying to get at as a family. And so I feel like relationships work the same way. As you grow older, it's not that you, again, and I agree with you. When somebody says picky, it just sounds like a bad word.
Yeah.
But there's those two aspects of it. One of them is, and there are people who have the negative side of picky, which is they are superficial. And then there's the other side where the way I like to word it is, I know what I want.
Yes.
I know what I need, and I also know what I could offer.
Exactly.
Okay? And so, because I could find somebody that I'm like, oh my God, that person meets all my needs, that person is ideal. But then if I'm not honest with myself and what I could provide,
Yes.
then that relationship it may fail because it's gonna be one-sided. And so,
Exactly.
as you grow older, you start noticing, oh, like these three sections that we talked about. One of them is the non-negotiables, right? In my case, one of them would be like our faith.
Yeah.
Right? I wouldn't be able to be with somebody who I don't share the same faith. Doesn't mean that we see the rules of the church the same way or
Yeah.
that we worship the same way, but it means that our faith is grounded on the same person, which is Christ. The second thing would be, so first is non-negotiables. The second things are our needs. Those are things that we need a person to have.
Yeah.
And the last thing is our wants. And so I feel like somebody on the healthy side of picking, they'll discard the non-negotiables and the needs because they didn't like something that the person had that had to do with the wants. Like they're a certain type of height.
Yeah.
All right.
I tell my friends this all the time. Like, it doesn't matter 6'1" or 5'8".
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we all have preferences, but if you're eliminating everyone who is under 6'1", you're eliminating a complete pool of people that could be a really good match for you.
100%.
Yeah, I agree.
And so we do see those people. We've actually been there. We have friends that they let go of good opportunities because there was something or another thing that was not what they wanted.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of look at the other stuff first. And so I feel like when you're a healthy picker, what you do is you choose the other way around. That person may not have the height or the colored eyes, or they may not have the car, or even the resources that you're looking for. But there's other areas where they're actually spot on what you need in your life, and actually the type of person that you could
like the
give.
values that are important to your family, like someone who's kind and considerate. Someone, if you have children like we do, someone who is great with kids and actually wants to get to know your kid. That to me is something that's more important than some other physical characteristics or aspects that may have seemed important in the past. So I think you really have to look at, like you said, the wants versus the needs, the non-negotiables, to really, kind of be realistic.
Yeah, you just reminded me of a story. I shared it once when I preached in Spanish. So I went to this church. I was going to preach. And they gave me, they call them armor bearers, somebody who carries your Bible. I don't know why. But they gave this person, said, help him. And it was a girl, and oh my God, she was fine. She was beautiful. She was gorgeous. And when I was up, about to go preach, she sat in the front row, and she was lifting her hands. I was like, oh my God, she's a worshiper, check. And then, all this stuff, and I was like, check. They gave her time to speak, and she was amazing, check. And then my son was close by, right? He was a little kid. He was little. And my son kind of walked close to her, and she brushed him off. And that moment, she became ugly.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I noticed that moment, oh my God, no matter how good somebody treats me or how good somebody loves me or whatever they do to me, now in my life, whatever they do to my kid is more important.
Exactly.
And so that becomes something that like I look out for, and somebody may say, oh my God, but she's fine, or this or that.
Yeah.
It's like,
but what about the rest?
Yeah. What about
everything else? And I think that can also be true for not just, romantic relationships, but friendships as well. Like I've had friendships of 15, 20 years, and I had to end the friendship because I didn't like how they treated other people. Like me and this friend were fine, but they were really rude and disrespectful in a lot of ways to other people. And I kind of had to cut my losses. So I feel like things like that, like the wants versus the needs, can be not just in romantic relationships, but in our other relationships as well. Looking for good qualities in people, recognizing not just what they have to offer us, but what we have to offer them as well.
And it's so interesting because, again, going back to what we said earlier, if you're able to do that with friendships, then when you get to a relationship, like a love relationship, your muscles of walking away are strong.
Yeah.
Where you're like, what, this is not beneficial for me. And there's things you could work out. There's things you could talk through. But there's some stuff that people just have, it's part of who they are.
Yeah.
And unless they willingly want to change those things, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
with them, or like someone has to give. And so I rather walk away from that relationship and know that, you know what, okay, I learned something here. I grew. I'm also not going to define future people because of
This one person.
This one person exactly. But I am gonna take those things in consideration.
Yeah.
Those red flags. I don't know with you, but I'm gonna be honest with me. When I was dating the person I ended up marrying, there was a lot of red flags that I saw. But in my mind, because of my romantic side, I thought, you know what, I'll kiss that away. Like, I'll make her. She's, like,
You're like, things are gonna change.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they didn't. And so now, as I move forward, I do look at those things. And so, thinking through that, right? And we're kind of going to the past and kind of understanding where we came from, because we really believe, that saying that says, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And so it helps you to kind of look back and understand the things that you can take and things you cannot take, and the things that actually help you and things that don't help you. And so I encourage you, if you're thinking about moving forward into a relationship, take time to date yourself, to know yourself.
Yes.
Take time to see the things in your own life that need some work, so that when you move forward into a relationship and something hits you, you don't say like, how come I always pick the same type of people? Well, the answer for that is somewhere in your past. It's somewhere back there in an experience, because the things that happen in your past do creep up on you in your future. And the messed up thing is they creep up on you in the times that you least expect it.
Yeah.
And they could ruin a relationship. They could. I remember this one time I met a person, and I couldn't. As much as I tried to click, I couldn't click with this person. I just couldn't in our conversation.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got home that I realized, oh my God, her eyebrows reminded me of someone that really hurt me. It was weird.
So you let the eyebrows stand in the way of.
Yes. And I was like, oh my, was that? It was too familiar. And then there's other people who like I met, and automatically I felt like, oh my God, we have such a, like, I feel like I know you forever. And then I noticed, oh, there's things about you that are so similar to this really good friend of mine. And that made me able to open up to you.
Yeah.
And so I had to know those things, because moving forward, I could get tricked by mice, because nobody could trick me like me.
That's true. I feel like we know ourselves better than anyone else, but we also lie to ourselves.
Yes.
We lie to ourselves. We know the truth. Sometimes we don't want to realize it until it's really like in our face and we're forced to deal with it. Sometimes we'll just continue sweeping it under the rug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 100%. It's like we know exactly what to tell ourselves to feel down or feel up. And it's funny because sometimes we won't take from other people the things that we actually tell ourselves. Like if somebody comes up to me and says, you're fat, I'll probably talk back and say, no, I'm not. Look at you. But I'll stand in front of a mirror and tell that to myself every single day.
Yeah.
And so the same thing happens with relationships. If you kind of talk to yourself, you take the time to be healthy within yourself, speak to yourself, and I know maybe if I'm dating somebody and all of a sudden I notice those things and I tell myself, Jefte, you gotta get out, you gotta leave. She may think I'm crazy, but in a couple of months, I'm gonna have the peace of mind in my heart to move forward.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of like land with these three things that we feel may help you, because it's helped us. Three principles or three groups of people, three thoughts or ideas that kind of help you as you're making choices for relationships. Because again, if you're on, we're gonna say this way, if you're on Jefte's side of struggle and you feel like loneliness is lying to you, and it's pushing you to relationships that you don't want to be in, or if you're on Andrea's side where it's fear and it's pushing you away from them, the extreme will be that I would then say, you know what, I'm not gonna listen to loneliness, and I'm not gonna talk to nobody at all, and that's unhealthy. Or if you say, I'm gonna lose the fear and I'm just gonna jump in, that's also unhealthy. There's things that help you along the way. And so, for you, Andrea, what are things that you feel you need to have in place in order to move forward in your dating life? Things that you feel you have to have there for your own health.
So for me, I think in terms of dealing with the fear, I had first had to realize like, where is this coming from? And like, why do I feel this way? Once I recognized it was because of, past relationships and hurt and things. I also realized that I had given like agency over myself and my power to these past feelings. And that, ultimately what was holding me back. So once I realized that, and I said, I don't want to give my power to this person or this past experience, because I have all these years of my life that, I kind of have missed out on, and I could have, experienced some great things and met some great people because of fear. Also getting to know myself as an individual, as a parent, like what's important to me, what's important to my family, learning how to better communicate, which is something that we, like we mentioned earlier, with our friends, with our, non-romantic relationships, you build on those skills, and those skills eventually help you when you are ready to start dating or enter a relationship. So those are some of the things that I realized that I need in place for me to take that next step. And also knowing what is it that I'm looking for and what am I able to give.
So if you're taking notes there, remember, spend time on you, right?
Yeah.
Know yourself, know what you have, know your story, know what you could give, what you could offer. Secondly, have a good, strong group of friends that speak into your life, that walk with you, who you could bounce things off of, who you could process with.
Yeah.
That's super, super important. As you're dating, let people know, let your friends know where you're going, what you're doing, what your plans are. Have both guys and girlfriends in your life that can speak into you. I mean, thankfully, I have a good group of friends, and they have amazing, amazing wives. And it's crazy because sometimes I'll call my friend and be like, bro, I want to talk to this person. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
And then he'll pass the phone over to his wife.
Be like,
He's
hey,
like, all right, Jefte, look.
like this is what you do.
Yeah, I saw this picture that you were the other day, and if you're gonna go, don't wear that, wear this, and this brings out this in you, and it's like it's cool because you don't know those things. And then I think one that we agreed on when we spoke is God, like bring God into everything that you do. And so don't only bring God in all right, God, I want to marry this person. Should I not? No, bring God into every aspect of it. Bring God into every single aspect of it. Even in your failures. I think sometimes we have this idea that when we mess up, God turns around because he can't see. And he just kind of looks away. And then when you're finished messing up, you come and say, Lord, I'm sorry. No, God's with you the whole way through. And so take advantage of that. Take advantage of the fact that God is with you, that he has put friends around you, and that he has also given you an interesting personality that you could share with others and also share with yourself. And so I want to ask you this question, Andrea. If you were to talk to 15, 16, 17, 20, 25-year-old Andrea,
Oh, man.
what would you tell her? First of all, about her future,
Okay.
future failures, and also about meeting people.
Yeah.
What would you tell her?
Oh, that's a deep question. So I would tell myself, you're gonna be hurt, and that's okay. Everybody goes through heartbreak and heartache.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just a part of life, but it's how you manage it and how you face it and, really understand it. You have to learn a lesson from it, or else you're just gonna keep repeating the same mistakes. I would also tell myself that, there's no perfect person, including myself. I'm not perfect, never will be. And to also give myself some grace. To give myself some grace as I learn and grow and go through different things and experiences. And that it's important to get to know yourself so that you know ultimately what you want for your future and your family.
Yeah, that was amazing. Just to think that you could make so much wiser decisions if you were able to speak to yourself when you were younger.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today and being part of this conversation. Obviously, we couldn't talk everything that was in our hearts or everything you could talk about relationships because there's a lot there. But we do want you to take this in your heart. My name is Jefte Villalta, and I like romantic walks at the beach. But just make sure that if you have any questions or anything that you would want to know more about, write to Seven Collectives. Let us know. We want to be able to hear your heart, things that you took out of this conversation, or even things that you thought that we didn't say that we could add to our conversation. We would be so glad to be able to hear from you guys. So write to us. We want to hear from you.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here to share with you guys, and I'm Yeah, it was a good conversation. I think we both learned a lot from each other. Even though our stories are similar, they're also different.
Yeah.
But I think we learned a lot.
And I'm gonna talk to Vanessa to see if when we're like 83 years old, we could do
We
this
can come back.
And we'll be like, you know what,
Like,
guys?
did we learn anything?
Well, thank you guys. God bless you and see you soon.
Bye.
Thank you, Jefte and Andrea, for that amazing message. I'm so grateful that you were willing to be vulnerable, to open up, and to share your stories. And hey, Seventh Collective family, if you are not plugged into a life group, email us at connect@life@revive.com. We say this all the time, don't do life alone. We want to inspire you, we want to encourage you, and we want to make sure that you are not doing things on your own. So please email us, and we cannot wait to continue on these conversations with Seventh Collective. See you next month.